And Mr. Chairman, we are ready. We're streaming and recording.
Start over. I call this August 5th meeting, Planning Commission meeting to order. Thank you for joining us tonight. It's always a pleasure to have people in the audience when we look at things. Sometimes we have more than we have today, but we are delighted that you decided to share tonight with us. We have 2 items to consider tonight. They originally were 5 of them, but 3 have been deferred, and I will tell you which ones they are. The first one is Z21-06/V-2117. Kimbo 154 has been deferred by the applicant. The Bale and North Winds has been deferred by staff. And the Adora Daycare Center has been rejected by staff for administrative reasons. So we have 2 MP 21-5/CU-21-10 George Animal Hospital, Windward Pod 4, and CU 21-9 Alpharetta Liquor and Wine, and we will take them in order for consideration. Kathy will present the first one, MP-21-05, but before we do that, Kathy, we're going to consider the minutes from the July 1st meeting. What is the wish of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes from the July 1st, 2021 meeting.
Second.
A motion has been made and properly seconded. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries. If an item is forwarded to council tonight, it will be heard on August the 23rd, on Monday. Council makes the final decision. We are recommending body, so come back and to the council meeting on the 23rd. Ms. Cook. Copy.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. The first item before you is the area shown to you on the screen. The applicant, Dr. Aaron George, is requesting a master plan amendment and a conditional use to allow an animal hospital for small animals. The submitted request, if approved, would allow the applicant to operate an animal hospital for small animals use in a 2,600 square foot suite within an existing shopping center. An amendment to the Windward Master Plan is requested to add the use to Pod 4, and it's a conditional use is requested to allow the use for Aaron and Wade George. Property is located at 6195 Windward Parkway, that's Suite 109 in the Windward Market Forest Shopping Center. Property is zoned CUP, which is Community Unit Plan, subject to the Windward Master Plan. The property was developed in 2007 with a 1-story, a little over 18,000 square foot strip shopping center. And Starbucks is located to the east. There's the Shell gas station located to the west, and Windward Plaza office and Hilton Garden Inn are located to the south. There are several uses that are allowed within Windward Pod 4. It has the land use designation of commercial, but this particular use was not included. It does allow professional office, banks, restaurant, theater. We provided a list of all the uses that are allowed. UDC section 1.4.2 defines animal hospital small animal as a place where dogs, cats, birds, or other animals normally kept as household pets are given medical or surgical treatment, and the boarding of animals is limited to just the short-term care incidental to the hospital use. The use is permitted by right in the light industrial district and is a conditional use in the AG, CUP, as well as OI and C1 and C2. Dr. Aaron George proposes a new full-service veterinary clinic providing preventative care, medicine, surgery, dentistry, and chemotherapy for cats and dogs. And this is just another layout of the location. So she would be located in Suite 109 here at the end. And she is proposing that the business will, the hours of operation would be Monday to Friday from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday from 7 to 1. and she's proposing 6 to 8 employees. And the Windward Market Forest Center is occupied by several tenants right now. It has a couple restaurants, Secreto, Southern Kitchen, Terra Humada Mexican Grill. It also has Majestic Nails, Subway, and Synergy Fitness. The applicant, as stated previously, would be at the end at Suite 109. And that was previously an urgent care clinic. The end of the building right now has a drive-through lane, which was used by the former urgent care, and they do propose to take that out and put an area for the dogs. I think you can see this, it's kind of dark. And the improvements would include adding a turf and a fence and shrubs, as well as a pet bag station and trash can. So the animal clinic staff would maintain that area on a daily basis. And in addition, they're proposing noise mitigation measures for the applicant's suite. So the build-out will include some noise mitigation. Also, they're also going to focus kind of the guest checkout towards the end of the building in this area, which can be some of the busier area 2 of the operation. And then you can see here what the changes would look like in general for that pet area. Staff estimated that with the 2,600 square foot animal hospital, they would generate about 12 p.m. peak hour trips. So not a lot of trips that would be generated. And after our review, we found that it does not conflict with the established review criteria for a master plan amendment and conditional use, and the use would be compatible with the surrounding uses in the commercial center. And they did do a citizen participation plan, and the report states that no comments were received. They also had the citizen zoning information meeting. They were a part of that. And we didn't have any comments on this particular case at that virtual meeting that we had. We are recommending approval of the case subject to 8 conditions. 1, animal hospital small animals shall be added as a conditional use to the Windward Master Plan Pod 4. 2, animal hospital small animals shall be added as a conditional use at 6195 Windward Parkway, Suite 109, and limited to no more than 2,600 square feet. 3, the conditional use is limited to Aaron and Wade George, as well as the hours of operation. 5, boarding of animals is limited to short-term care incidental to the hospital use. And 6, the pet relief area shall be improved with artificial turf or sod and shall be screened with a decorative fence or shrubs as approved by staff. Wayfinding signage shall be provided in the parking area at the front of the business, directing patrons to the pet relief area. 7, interior tenant improvements shall include noise mitigation measures. And 8, mobile resources supporting the business, such as mobile MRI or X-ray, shall not be parked between the building and the street. And that concludes staff presentation. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer those.
Thank you. Any questions?
I just have 2 quick questions. So was there any specific reason why this was not included in the master plan? Was there any reason to keep it off?
I don't think so. And of course, the master plan, which was originally in 1980, and then it had a major update in 1993. So it just wasn't something, I think, that was thought about at that time.
And then my second one is those noise mitigation measures. Will those have to be approved? Is there a list or something, or how will they determine what's acceptable?
That's a good question. That will have to go through a building permit process to make sure that they meet that requirement.
Okay.
Any further questions? All right. I see or hear none at this time, so we're going to ask the applicant to come forward and make a presentation.
State your name.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm Dr. Erin George. I'm a veterinarian. I currently practice in Illinois. My husband and I and 3 dogs are relocating to the area. My parents retired down to Lake Oconee about 8 years ago, so we're looking forward to being closer to family. And when we kind of were looking around, we just absolutely fell in love with this town. We're big tennis players, so that was a big draw to the town for sure. It's obviously very pet friendly. We've noticed a lot of restaurants, all of that. It's really great seeing the pet-friendly community for sure. So that's just kind of a little bit about me. It's just going to be a small animal practice, dogs and cats only, no boarding, no grooming, but definitely full-service veterinary hospital. Especially since the pandemic hit, there's a huge need for veterinarians, and we're definitely looking to fill that void. So if anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer what I can.
Thank you. Any questions?
I just had one. It says boarding of animals is limited to short-term care. What would be short-term care for
Yep, so
that?
just surgical patients, so animals who are dropped off in the morning for spays, neuters, dental procedures, they would just be boarded for the day, and then they would go home before we close that evening.
Okay.
Any other questions? No further questions.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Yep.
I'll open up for public comments. If anyone in the audience would like to speak, please come forward. None in favor, none in opposition. So I will open this up for, do you have any other comment you'd like to make? You always have time to rebut, but there is nothing to rebut. All right. Well, I'll turn this over to the board for a motion and our discussion.
I forgot to ask you. So you're okay with all of these suggested changes? You're okay with all? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve MP 21-05/CU-21-10 George Animal Hospital, 6195 Windward Parkway, subject to the conditions as set forth by staff.
Second?
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Or in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries, and this will be heard by City Council on August the 23rd. Thank you for coming, and thank you for moving to Alpharetta. All right. The second item is CU-21-09, Alpharetta Liquor and Wine, 11380 State Bridge Road. Michael will be presenting.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. The next item before you is a conditional use to allow Alpharetta Liquor and Wine to operate a liquor store in a 4,960 square foot suite within a new shopping center. Property is Zone C1 Neighborhood Commercial, which requires approval of a conditional use to allow a liquor store. I have the location map up on the overhead, and the property is located at 11380 State Bridge Road, Suites 130, 140, and 150, and that's the northeast corner of State Bridge Road and Kimball Bridge Road. Just to familiarize yourself with the site, this is the street view picture of the building towards the end of construction. This is at the intersection looking back at the building. This is a 1.15 acre property developed as Kimball Plaza, which is a new one-story 9,464 square foot shopping center building. Surrounding properties are Zone C1 Neighborhood Commercial, except the property to the east and south are in City of Johns Creek. Georgia Clinic and U-Store climate-controlled storage are located to the north. A commercial strip center is located, and Johns Creek are located to the east. Honda Carland Service Center is located to the west, and Johns Creek, City of Johns Creek to the south. The comprehensive land use plan designation of the property is commercial. Alpharetta Liquor and Wine is a new business. The applicant proposes to occupy 3 suites within this building. I'll show you the site plan. So the 3 suites nearest to the intersection are highlighted here. Again, that represents 4,960 square feet of space. According to the applicant, products sold will include beer, wine, spirits, and associated items related to alcohol package sales. Hours of operation are proposed Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 9:30 p.m., Friday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 10:30 p.m., and Sunday, 12:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. The applicant anticipates less than 10 employees. And staff looked at the trip generation and estimated that the use would generate 503 daily trips with 95 p.m. peak hour trips. One of the review criteria for a conditional use states ensuring that the conditional use is appropriately separated from similar uses and conflicting uses such as residences, government buildings, parks, churches, and school. Based on staff's research, there are other liquor stores in the immediate vicinity of this property. Royal Liquor Store, located in the public shopping center across the street, 4305 State Bridge Road, is located approximately 1,350 feet away, which is about a quarter mile. And then Old Milton Beverage is located in Brookside Station, just up Old Milton from this site at 4045 Old Milton Parkway. That site's about 3/4 of a mile away, almost 4,000 feet away. In addition, we also noted that there are 2 liquor stores in the immediate vicinity in City of Johns Creek. One is a little bit further away up Kimblebridge Road to the northeast. That one's about 1.75 miles away, but the one directly to the south is approximately a half mile to the south. The nearest, at this corner too, here's an aerial. At the corner, while the intersection is a commercial corridor, the residential is directly behind at all 4 sides of this intersection. The nearest residence to the proposed liquor store is approximately 630 feet away in the Parkbrook subdivision, directly to the west. And then OC Elementary School is located to the south, and that is about a quarter mile away. This item was shown to the public at the July 14th Community Zoning Information Meeting. There were no public comments. And staff has reviewed the applicant's proposal and believes that the request conflicts with the established review criteria, specifically the criteria that I read previously. There are other liquor stores in close proximity to the property, as well as conflicting uses such as residence in an elementary school. With that concludes the staff recommendation is to deny the request, and that concludes the presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
I have one with respect to the other uses that are cited as conflicting with these uses. Are there separation distances in the code?
There are no separation distances within the code. We do have those separation distances for things like spa services and massage therapy, but we do not have a prescribed distance for a liquor store to other uses within a definition in the UDC. Now, there are alcohol license distances within our code of ordinances, but not specific to distances to other liquor stores or conflicting uses.
So in the absence of, a guiding criteria regarding separation, is that a staff judgment as to whether, a liquor store would be in conflict with a residential use, or is it considered as a nuisance? Because when we cite a 3/4 mile, for example, is between these two uses, I'm trying to put that in context.
Yeah.
As to
Yeah,
why.
without the actual prescribed distance, minimum distance requirements in the code, it is based on staff's opinion of reviewing the item with respect to that review criteria. And I think that, I think it was very apparent that there is quite a few of that same similar use within that particular area.
Now, with respect to accessibility or ingress, I'm very familiar with this particular site, and I think it was just developed. Is it occupied by any other tenant that you know of currently?
I'm not aware if there are any other tenants in the building currently. I'm sure that the applicant should be able to answer that.
Okay. All right. We may have other questions later for you. Any other questions for Michael?
So just so I understand from a procedural component, there's one element that would, if a conditional use was approved, right, through this process, that would still leave the obtaining of a liquor license process to be handled by a different entity in a different process.
That is correct, yes.
Okay. And some of the factors that you cited, the Royal that's there, I would imagine the Publix has beer and wine. I think probably most Walgreens have beer and wine in them and things of that nature. Okay. And so when those businesses get their license, they go through a similar process in terms of a alcohol liquor license.
Correct.
Okay.
Are there no regulations or any state mandates for separation of schools? Because I know where that is too. OC Elementary's right there. There's another school right down the street. Is there any state law about how close a liquor store can be?
I'm not aware of any. We do have a representative from City Attorney's Office. I hate to put you on the spot, Stephen, but you may possibly be aware of something that I'm not, but I did not find any
I know there's like serving,
state
like if you're
requirements.
serving alcohol, there's issues, but there's not just selling it to like a packaged liquor. Is there any laws like that?
There are laws regarding distance requirements for alcohol sales license for as for off-premise consumption. I don't know if there's distance requirements off the top of my head.
Okay.
But the applicant would, again, have to meet those at the time that it sought a license.
Okay.
Michael, when they do the trip generations, would it be reasonable to infer that the Royal or the Old Milton package store would be generating comparable trips? Or is this, in other words, I guess what I'm getting at is these, when they cite daily trips, those are intended to be in addition to traffic flow already in the area?
For this particular use, it is based on a rate tied to the square footage of the building for a liquor store. So if those liquor stores are comparable in size, then the answer is yes, they would generate a similar number of trips.
Okay.
So that kind of confuses me because if you've already got trips being generated by existing stores, you wouldn't have another 500 people going to this place. You would have 500 people that have options now. So I'm wondering if this is an addition. So are you assuming this is an additional traffic that's going to draw, or now are we just diluting traffic?
These are we're using the ITE rates for that transportation engineers and planners use to estimate, and we're just looking at that specific use.
Because I can see if it's the only one there, but if you've got a couple others.
Sure.
I'm just curious.
Any other questions? No further questions at this time. Michael? We ask the applicant to come forward and make a presentation.
Council, Mr. Chairman, my name is Paul, last name is Suda, S-U-D-A. I'm an attorney here in town, have been for 30-odd years.
Feel free to sit there if you like to, or you can leave it there and then stand. All right.
All right. I want to say at the onset that on page 2 of the city's recommendations, or the planning committee's recommendations, the applicant accepts all the conditions, the 4 different conditions that are on the top of page 2. So we can move on from there. When we move on to page 3, at the top of the page, it says a conditional use will be permitted, and it goes on to say the following objective criteria. So it's not subjective, objective. There are 7 different items here. We don't have to deal with either numbers 2 or 4. Number 2 says that the plan complies, and number 4, it simply says not applicable. So we're going to go up to number 1, access in and out. The city has to consider and remember that it did indeed give the builder or the contractor the opportunity and the permit to build the building in the first place. So they knew that there was going to be people entering and exiting this particular plaza. So I don't think that's really relevant to the particular instance at hand. Also, Ms. Waylock, you mentioned likewise about the peak hour visits and the 500 visits. If that was to be true, then I'm in the wrong business. I should be moving into this type of area and using whatever software program. I don't see how it's going to be that much. And as you mentioned before, there's other options that people are going to use. If you are correct, it's simply the opportunity. It's not going to be definite. Moving on to number 3, you'll see here it says that ensuring that the conditional use will not is either plus or minus, yes or no, but down in the response it simply says the proposal could have is a subjective response, and as I said up and above, they must have the criteria is an objective criteria. Could have is subjective, therefore it's not applicable to the situation at hand. We move on down to number 5, same situation, ensuring that the conditional use will not impede. Down below in the response it says the proposal could have, again, subjective, not objective, and we have to go by objective criteria. Number 6, consistent with the desirable pattern of development. Again, it's already in a commercial area. Everyone knew this was a commercial area. The city has already given permission for the construction of a 10,000 square foot plaza. They knew that it was consistent at the time. Moving on to number 7, I'm going to contest the distances that are referenced in the document. First of all, when in reference to the Royal Liquor and the Old Milton Beverage, again, those are on the other side of the street. Anyone who drives around in Alpharetta knows now that if something's on the other side of the street and it's a divided highway, you're oftentimes not going to go down the street and turn around and come on back. It being across the street is very important. Number 2, this is the City of Alpharetta report of survey. There's referencing here about a subdivision being 630 feet away, and yet the survey here says that it's 2,565 feet to the property line of the nearest private residence. Likewise, 2,400 feet to the school's house. So each of those is a half a mile. And then with respect to churches, we've got approximately 2/5 of a mile. 2 miles away, OC Elementary School is 2/5 of a mile, and OC Park is a mile away. So the store is plenty far enough away for the city to consider that it's not going to impact either residences or neighborhoods or anything of that nature. So again, there was a mention of oh goodness gracious. Again, the survey is what's applicable. There also was a question with respect to what state law might say about distances. And again, all of what the state looks at is whether or not you're close enough to another store, an element, or a school, a school reference, or a place of worship. And again, all these distances, we're all much further away than what the state law requires. And as you appropriately referenced, Mr. Bendel, there's going to be a city license and then there's going to be a state license. There's a 2-step process before this thing is going to be permitted. So again, in closing, we accept the conditions that the planning board has placed on the applicant. Again, this is an objective standard, and I believe that subjective standards have been used. And likewise, there had been comment that this was the opinion, and it should not be an opinion, it should be an objective plus black or white decision. And in this situation, I believe that the applicant has properly pointed out that it has satisfied all the conditions to have this permit allowed. And that's all I have for you, unless you have any questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Anyone with questions? Yes.
To answer the question that you had earlier this way, like this state doesn't regulate the distance for this particular use, but the Alpharetta code says 300 feet or 100 yards from a school or a church.
And this applicant meets those. Is he in conflict? I don't-
I can't.
Okay.
And again, just for clarification, it's not from point A, a straight line by the crow's fly, it's by how you would walk there. You have to walk down the street, cross the street, and then back down the street. That's how the measurement is made by the state. Right? And if there's any other questions?
Yes.
I'd be interested to know, I saw in the information that the applicant is not a first-time package store operator, is that correct?
That's right. I'm in this business since almost 20, 25 years.
Anywhere else in the immediate community, or?
No, right now I own one in the south of Atlanta, which Greenville, a place called Greenville, Georgia.
Okay.
I'm glad you came to Alpharetta.
I need them.
Any other questions? All right, no further questions at this time.
Thank you.
Councilmen and councilwomen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we are planning commission, not council members. All right. We don't have any audience apart from the applicant, so it's, oh, you are. Would you like to speak in favor or in opposition?
Neither.
Okay. All right. Then the public comment is open and short.
Mr. Chairman, I did have one question to staff.
Yeah, I was going to just turn it over to the board, and you can ask any questions at that time. All right, go ahead.
Do you know, Michael, when the last liquor store application was approved, maybe for the Royal Liquor or Publix or anything along those lines?
Honestly, I don't. I know that the last liquor store that came before you just a couple of months ago at Hembry and West Side, that was denied. There was a liquor store that was submitted back in, I believe it was 2015. That would have been the liquor store previous to the last one that you saw. That one was never brought forward to Planning Commission and Council, so it never went anywhere. And I believe the one that was next in line was Total Wine, but I'm not 100% on that.
Following up on the previous question, since we don't recall what the previous application might have been, I don't know if that same question would have come up about proximity to another liquor store. I'm particularly curious about how it came to pass that Royal and Old Milton are as close to each other as they actually are.
So the condition number 7 in the conditional use review criteria, that was added to the conditional use review criteria about 2 years ago. So that was not previously in there. I believe that those 2 locations that are in the vicinity possibly were there and were part of an annexation approved in Fulton County and then annexed into the city.
So those were isolated islands that were next in?
I'm sorry?
Were those isolated, those islands that were?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I recall that. Thank you.
Michael, maybe not as pertinent to this particular application, but perhaps it is. This node that's being developed, seems unusual to the degree to which it's sort of separated from what's around it. A lot of there's the one-way road on the other side. You've got divided highways on both sides. When properties like that are developed, is there a more rigorous kind of thought process that goes into the kinds of businesses that are compatible with that? And I guess what I'm getting at is the traffic flow is, and I'm through that area periodically, and I've always, kind of navigated around that little triangle there. But is that something that's most likely to be used by those folks that live immediately in that vicinity?
Yeah, in the zoning, C1, neighborhood commercial, just as it says, it's meant to be commercial that would be utilized by surrounding neighborhoods.
Okay. And is it the kind of thing that through usage, it really is, when I'm going this way, it's accessible to me, but when I'm coming from the other direction, it's a kind of loop around, and there's more turns and maneuvers that are associated with trying to get in and out of those properties?
Sure, there are properties like that. We're all familiar with, certain roads. Like the geometry of this intersection is very unusual. Usually you have two streets coming together at a 90-degree angle. You don't have that here. But yes, that does happen from time to time, especially with these unusual sites that you might have limited access. Limited ability to do U-turns at signalized intersections, things like that.
But the existence of sort of the unusuality, I don't even know if that's a word, of the parcel doesn't necessarily impact the city staff analysis of whether or not a conditional use is appropriate or not.
I mean, yes. I mean, we looked at, one of the conditional use review criteria that we looked at was access. I think it was either the first or second one in the list of 7 review criteria. And we certainly looked at that. I did talk to Eric Graves, our transportation engineer, about it. This site does have some limited access to it. It's got right in, right out through another shopping center from Kimball Bridge, and then a right in, right out from State Bridge. So it definitely goes into, and we had some concerns about it. Eric does believe that the access can handle the number of trips. But that's why our bigger concern was review criteria number 7.
Where are the curb cuts? Is there one on Kimball Bridge? Or just on State Bridge Road?
So this is State Bridge, Old Milton Parkway, and this is Kimball Bridge. So there's right in, right out here off of State Bridge. And then the right in, right out off of Kimball Bridge is through a separate property. This shopping center, there's a small shopping center right here with like a fireworks store, and I can't remember exactly what else is in there, but there is a right in, right out approximately in this location, and you have to go through some other properties to get to the center.
It would also appear that you could kind of zigzag through the parking lots and get back to State Bridge Way out the backside there. It would.
I'm not 100% if there's a connection through the property to State Bridge Way. I don't believe that there is. Actually, I take that back. There is.
Yeah.
So it does look like you can come past the storage facility, and there looks to be a curb cut right at this location.
I mean, I'm pretty familiar with that area. I lived right behind there for a very long time, but those situations existed at the time everyone that was there before, when they came in and built their places, so that hasn't changed. And to me, to have a developer come later and say, that's to be denied that when everyone else has the same situation, that hasn't changed. I don't really think this is going to make much difference. I do tend to agree a little bit that I don't see anything. I don't see any I don't see any citizen objection letters.
Nothing was received, no.
Okay, so nothing was received. this is not, I mean, this is a very commercial area. It's just a hub, and it is difficult to get around in that area, but I don't think that just because you're kind of last to the table, that you should be held to a different standard than people that are already there. The distances are, to me, the distances are relative, are far away. I think that you're not up against OC Elementary. In fact, OC Elementary, I think, is across the street from there. So again, I guess the biggest thing is that there's nobody objecting to this. And that was the biggest thing. And also the numbers, the 503 trips, I think that's a little, I don't think that's really something that, if that were to be true, that 500 more people were going to be on that street, I would totally say, that's a lot going in there, but I don't see that happening because people are going to have options. They're going to be going in that area, and there's going to be a choice. That's my thoughts.
I think my only comment would be, this body isn't here to consider things like market saturation. I do look at that large strip mall across Kimball Bridge from this location that has a lot of empty space in it. And of course, on behalf of the business owner, I'm sitting here a little concerned and hoping that because of the complexity of the traffic patterns there, that they're not doomed to failure just because of that, and that the empty space across the road isn't a bad omen. But I echo the point that that's not ours to decide. If it's a risk, a business risk worth taking, and there's no objections, and it's consistent use, it's commercial, it's hard for me to find an objection other than good luck.
The item is due for debate, motion or further debate by the commission. So, or if you have any questions, you can ask them of the applicant and staff. As you think about it, I'll just make a comment that these are some of the applications that I have struggled with over the years in the Planning Commission, just trying to follow the reasoning of staff and looking at the actual circumstances of the business and trying to figure out what the best decision would be. But that's why you're planning commissioners, and you have to make a decision, and we don't pass a problem on to council to decide. I like for us to make a recommendation as it moves forward. So that's typical of having to struggle with an application, is what I'm saying in so many words.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve CU-21-09, Alfredo Liquor and Wine, with all conditions, with 4 conditions as noted by staff.
Second.
A motion has been made and properly seconded. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries. Council makes the final decision again. The recommendation is to approve, but I'm sure you're going to come back and make your case one more time. Is there any other item the board would like to discuss before I adjourn the meeting? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Have a great night.